Hello there, Dr. Charlie Brown here. Welcome to today and our Charlie chats together. Let us take our 3 deep breaths and we'll go ahead and slide right in after that. Breathe all the way into the bottom of your belly and release. Really release. Breathe in peace and calm, and release anything that isn't peace and calm for you. Just let it go. Breathe in and release. Welcome. I have 2 questions for you today. It's like one of them has a lot of sub-questions. What have you learned? And who have you become? So, what have you learned about yourself, maybe your household, your company, corporation, your source of income, your community, your neighborhood, your local stores, restaurants? How about your government? Local government, state government, uh, federal government? couldn't think of that one. But what have you learned? What has being at home or very altered working, living schedule situation, what has it taught you? Maybe you learned that you really do hate math. And now your children's math with this new math, you're really confused. You thought you were confused when you were in school, and maybe you've been, struggling with that yourself. Maybe you've learned that your secret fantasy is that you're an educator and that you love educating, and maybe that's a new trajectory for you. Maybe you want to homeschool your children, or maybe you want to decide to become a teacher. Maybe you've learned how essential or inessential your job or job functions are. What have you learned? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about your surroundings? Maybe that's your housemates, whatever. Maybe your housemates are your children, your partner, your spouse. But really take time to think about what you have learned. And the second question, who have you become? Who do you want to become is maybe an easier to take version of that question. We get to be really intentional as things begin to open up again. You get to decide who it is you want to be, who you have become, and how you would like to show up in the world after you've maybe taken stock of what you've learned. My sister told me something when I went to graduate school. My grad school was in California, and I was coming from Philadelphia and had bought a car 2 weeks prior and then drove myself and my stuff across the country. I have lots of travel stories. That's not what I'm here to tell you. But what she said to me, she said, no one knows you in California. You can be whoever you want to be. So that's my encouragement for you, that you can come out of this however you choose to come out of this. If you're going to go back and just do the exact same things you did before this pause hit, you can be intentional about that. If you had the momentum rolling and you're like, no, I need to do more of those things, go for it. If, like many of us, perhaps you can see with the clarity of distance that maybe some of those things, some of those aspects weren't working for you. Maybe they're aspects of yourself. Maybe they're aspects of the way you make your living. Maybe they're aspects of really just the way you interact with your neighbors or don't interact with your neighbors. Do you still not know any of your neighbors? I don't know any of my neighbors. In this little kind of cul-de-sac, 2 of them have introduced themselves to me at very inopportune times, and that's not an energy I want to give something more to. Maybe you've gotten closer to your neighbors. Maybe you've had socially distanced engagements across your cul-de-sac where folks are sitting out on their lawn chairs and barbecuing, 50 feet away from each other, but kind of doing that together. What have you learned? Who have you become? Who do you want to go back into the world as? It can be somebody completely different. It can be somebody who is beginning to release or who has released some of the aspects about themselves or their world that they don't particularly care for or are less desirable. It can be somebody completely different. It can be somebody with a completely different profession or strong clarity about interests, or what you are doing versus what you could be doing. It could be someone who has maybe given their side hustle some leverage, some wings, some weight to that. Maybe that's a bridge that you're starting to build into the world of entrepreneurship. I don't know the answers to those questions for you. I know that this is an amazing opportunity for each of us to go back into the world as the world begins to open up, for each of us to decide intentionally who it is we'd like to show up as. Maybe grateful for the breaks from your partner and children again. Maybe that makes you a different kind of parent, co-parent, and partner. Maybe you are a different kind of coworker now that you've experienced probably maybe more personal into the lives of your coworkers than you intended or maybe wanted to know. But maybe you can have more compassion in that, if compassion is what is called for there. What have you learned about you, about your surroundings? Who have you become? Who are you becoming? Those are the questions that I leave you with today. And remembering that the transpersonal psychology is my area of knowing quite a bit about. Transpersonal means connecting mind, body, spirit, and environment, and integrating that into one solid whole. Who, what, how is your one solid whole? Whole with a W. Okay, folks, that's enough questions for one day. Thank you for joining me on this Charli Chats. If you care to connect with me in other ways, there are quite a few ways you can do that. I have a website, drcharliebrown.com. And on that website, if you go to drcharliebrown.com/practical-tools, you will come face to face with an online self-paced course that teaches you at least 10 right here, workable right now tools to make your everyday better, to help you show up more fully as yourself. I'm also findable on both Facebook and Instagram at Dr. Charli Brown. So I hope that we may continue to connect. It is always my distinct honor and great pleasure to spend this time and space with you. Until we meet again, I am Dr. Charli Brown. Take great care.